Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and today we are doing our first flight from iniBuilds' brand new London Gatwick scenery. It's been a really long time enjoying the lovely freeware scenery for Gatwick, but you could definitely see that it was a freeware scenery, even though it was an absolutely excellent one. So now we've finally gotten a wonderful payware Gatwick from iniBuilds in typical iniBuilds quality. So let's go ahead and go flying from here. And what better destinations would there be than those of the lovely British Airways 777 fleet over at London Gatwick, flying a lot of those holiday flights that you would see from British Airways, while a lot of the, let's call it, city trips or business trips are based out of Heathrow. They do have a lot of those holiday trips based out of Gatwick. Now, today we are going to head over to Disney World and the Universal Studios, aka Orlando. So let's go ahead and get right into it. And finally, it's the last word over here. I'm sure you've seen my recent video on GSX and that I finally found a solution for the problem where GSX wouldn't want to start for several weeks now. So hey, we are finally able to use GSX again today as well. Alright, with all of that said, let's go ahead and get right into our 777 to enjoy our lovely little long-haul flight. Well, boarding through the door to left, we can get into the business class and walk right up to the flight deck. I have a feeling this is going to be completely full today, as the weather in Florida is just absolutely amazing. And since it's not too hot over there yet, and also no risk of any hurricanes there as well just yet. I've just been in the area recently, and it's been absolutely lovely, so really can't wait to get there again. Well, so let's take a seat in our 777. You might notice over here that we have two guidance systems over here. That's because at the time of this recording, while Gatwick is still a preview, there just is no GSX profile available for it just yet. So we are still using the GSX profile made for the freeware scenery, which, as you can see, doesn't fit entirely, but it gets the job done. Alright, so starting in here, first of all, let's go ahead and turn that ADARU on. Then our safety inspection, so fuel control cutoff, the thrust levers in idle, parking brake set, alternate flaps are off, landing gear lever down, wipers are off, and that's all good. Alright, so one thing that we gotta do is to load our correct aircraft config. And for that, let's go ahead and head right over here. Aircraft, load from another. This is what I always do at the beginning of every flight. And now we just gotta find the... Here it is, Golf Reyes, and here we go. That's kind of the modern version of how the British Airways 777s are equipped, but I wanted to fly the Rolls-Royce one, so I had to choose the Yankee Mike Mike Sierra. Alright then, so with that loaded, let's go right down here into the Universal Flight Tablet, and we are going to import our SimBrief flight, and then we can head over into the weight and balance tab as well and import our weight and balance. Now let's have a quick look into the actual flight plan, and most importantly the weather, so that we can decide on any possible extra fuel we may want to take. And as we can see, Orlando, good weather conditions all over the day, and it's going to stay just like that. However, in the evening from 2000 they are going to get thunderstorms, and then at 2100 thunderstorm rain is in the forecast. Our arrival is at 1900 though, 1830 actually if we depart on time, so that's nothing to worry about. Therefore we can take standard fuel today, and looking down here we can see that's 61.1, so let's just round that up to 62 tons. And here we go. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start preparing our plane for other service. So we will start with the catering services that we'll request just now. Then we can head over to the doors, open one left, open one right, open four right. And last but not least, since we do have the GSX vehicles today, we can release any of those PMDG vehicles. Well, and there's that. So then, I suppose we're going to get right into the operations. Now, you're going to get the doors over there, I will go for the status, and then we'll also have a look at the engines. As you can see, the oil quantity 23 each side is a little bit low, so let's go into the automatic or into the ground maintenance over here, refill the engine oil just to ensure that we are absolutely good to go for today's flight without killing any of our engines. So the oil quantity of the APU is good, the hydraulic quantities are good, then let's do the oxygen test, and that is looking good as well. So recoil to check for anything we might have in here, and that's all looking wonderful. Okay, perfect. So that much about those basics. Then let's get into the FMC. 777-200 Trent 892 engines, nav database up to date. We can copy and paste the GPS position and then do the route request from SimBrief and select that one. Now, the call sign, as always, is wrong in here. I really hope they are eventually going to fix that one. Should be Speedbird 43 Charlie. Far too many messages. Okay, so Speedbird 43 Charlie it is. Wonderful. Alright, so load that route please. And we're departing via the Imvur 1 Zulu departure today, so let's go ahead and find our Gatwick charts. So Gatwick, again, one of those airports where we didn't fly into too often in the past, but I'm sure we are going to increase that frequency now with this wonderful scenery available. And here we go, Imvur 1 Zulu is now also pinned. You can give me daytime charts, please, it's more than bright enough. Alright, cool. So for our departure, runway 08 right and Imvur 1 Zulu. And then for the arrival, we're coming into Orlando with an ILS 18 right. We're flying the Alina 4 arrival coming from Highback, and that's it. So activate, execute, then let's go ahead and check our SID. So we continue straight at waypoint 05. Let's actually go ahead and have a look at that over here. So waypoint 05, and that's maximum 220 between 2.5 and 3,000. Then we continue with a left-hand turn to waypoint 09, again 220 and 3,000, onto waypoint 19, 250, 3,000, Imvur 250, 4,000, and thereafter we already transition into the en route environment. Then let's get rid of the plan again and bring the status back. Oh, did I not press that button? Here we go, that's better. So catering is in progress right now, then we should hopefully be ready for boarding in a few minutes. Well then, so route data and load the winds please. Very important on a long haul, otherwise you will not get correct predictions, both for the recommended altitudes as well as your estimated time of arrival and your cruising speeds. Okay, and likewise we are going to load the descent forecast. Then onto the progress page, 3,902 nautical miles, and indeed that's pretty much exactly our planned route. So Gatwick, and then we can draw a 25-mile ring around that. So let's see how far is GSX. Catering in position, okay. Waiting for them to tell us that catering is finished, because then we can start boarding. Alright, so 25 miles is in here, transition altitude 6,000 is correct. And then onto the init reference. So performance, accept that. Minimum fuel temperature minus 44, cruise CG is 30, reserves 5.4, let's cross check. Always a good thing to do these checks. So 2.8 and 2.7, yeah, 5.6 is alright. It includes a little bit of rounding, but that's fine with me. Alright, cool. And then onto the takeoff page, we have noise abatement procedure number 2 in here. Actually, I want to change that into noise abatement procedure number 1. Because that's just easier to fly with all those low level of restrictions and stuff. So I'm gonna go for that one today. Well, and with that, we have basically filled out the basic FMS. So just another check at GSX over here. Yeah, waiting for action to close doors. Let's do that. So close you and close you, and then request boarding please. And as they're about to start boarding, let's see, 62 tons of fuel are on board, then we can turn the fasten seatbelt sign on. So the service vehicles are driving away, then boarding is going to start any moment now. I really hope when they create that GSX profile that you will actually see your passengers walk in over there, because those windows are just so glaring obvious over here. It would be very nice to see that as a feature. It would be very nice indeed. Alright, cool. In the meantime though, let's go ahead and deal with something that we most definitely can see, and that's cross-checking our route. So, back onto the flight plan, and all the way back to the top. No, that's the bottom. We're not flying to Australia today. So, we're going from Echo Golf Kilo Kilo to Kilo Mike Charlie Oscar, Speedbird 43 Charlie, and the routing is going to be by Imvur, November 6-3 Southampton, November 19 Cape, direct Josma, direct Gapley, and then direct Omoko, 48 North 15 West, 47 North 20 West, 46 North 30 West, then 43.5 North 40 West, 41 North 50 West, 38 North 60 West, direct Lanka, Mike 204 Baxum, direct Willie, Mike 203 Hobby, and Alfa Romeo 6 Highback. So that route is checked, then we just gotta check all those coordinates to be accurate. So 4815 is correct. Then 4720 is also correct. 4630, surprise, is also correct. The halfway point is read out completely over here, so that's fine. Then we have 4150 is also correct. And 3860 is also correct. Beautiful. So with that we can confirm that all of our routing has been entered correctly. Last thing for us to do here is to enter the step climbs. So they want us to cross the pond at point 82 and in flight level 360 today. So we'll enter 82 over there. Then at 40 west we climb to flight level 380. And at Lanka to flight level 400. Like this, and then that brings us to our descent already. Perfect, and I'm not going to enter that speed change at Lanka. That's really not that important. Cool, so let's get out our CPDLC and we'll do the ATIS request here for Echo Golf Kilo Kilo. Send. Then we can take a look at our flight deck and just quickly over everything, making sure that everything is set correctly. So checklist, reset, all, thank you. The comm page is done already, then on to the other side. Like this. Over here we'll go to hectopascals, auto brake arm, frequencies. Well, we are flying this one offline, so it's going to be 22.8 and 21.5. Pretty much like this. Alright, cool. And with that, our setup is pretty much completed. In the meantime, we've gotten a comm message, so let's have a look. Gatwick 8S Charlie, Romeo News 08 right, transition level 70, ILS to be expected, Gatwick delivery closed. So let's see, 040 at 11, 16 degrees, 1019. Here we go, 1019 set once and set twice. Very good. So, drilling clearances are available, and report if Lima is not usable between Quebec Alpha and Papa on first contact. Okay. So, thank you very much. We can clear you, and with that, we are basically all set down here. So, let's just bring down the armrests. And with that, we are all set for our departure briefing. Are you ready? So let's go for it. We're departing London Gatwick, runway 08 right, via the Imwur 1 Zulu departure. Initial climb 3000, MSA is rounded up 3000 as well. And initial speed restriction 220, which is one of the specials we have over here. Well, apart from that, extra fuel and time is basically nothing. So, our guests are coming already, as we can see. Perfect, fine. So, for the rest of our briefing, I've got no hotspots for our taxi routing. However, we'll have a very good lookout on both sides of the wingtips, as we have a rather large aircraft for this airport. Well, I'm saying that while Emirates comes here twice daily with A380s, but you know what I mean. Stop margin in case of rejected takeoff, couple meters, and engine outsits straight at 25 miles. If we need to make an immediate return, then Gatwick 8 right is our best option in the area. Weather is good and the runway is more than long enough. Overweight landing as applicable, so we'll just do that procedure and that's it. Now, in terms of special operations, we got the 220 knot speed restriction. I do expect that our flap 1 speed is going to be slightly higher than that, so good look out there, ensuring that we don't bust our speed limits by retracting the flaps all the way if we can't retract them yet due to the speed. Apart from that, nothing non-standard, and I don't see any threats. Do you? Nope. Beautiful. So then let's do the pre-flight checklist, please. And that's oxygen, tested 100%, flight instruments, heading 205, altimeter 1019, reading 210. Set left, set right, pre-flight checklist complete. Alright, excellent. So how far is the boarding? How's that going? 150 of 290. Okay, so it's going to take a little while. Well, nonetheless, we can make good use of that time and just quickly head out for the walkaround. So here we are, starting the walkaround right over here at the static ports. And as we can see, static ports are looking good, nothing unobstructed over there. Then let's walk forward, have a look at the outflow valve. And then we can check our landing gear. Again, over here we do look for any fluid leakages. We look at the condition of the tires. We look at the lights over here. We look into the gear bay, making sure that there is nothing broken over there. So then we also have a look at the oxygen discharge valve, and then we can walk a little bit to the front. The broken pitot tube over here must have had a bird strike or something, is known. Will be fixed with the next beta update. So that's going to come fairly soon, guys. Well then, apart from that, the front of the plane is looking good, nothing over there. And again, that pitot tubes had a bird strike as well, just like this one. That must have been quite a flock. Have we been to Africa recently? Alright, looks like cargo loading is already finished. Then the pitot, or the static ports are looking good, the air inlet is looking good. Now let's get over to our immense engines. 777 is just beautiful, isn't it? Huge engines over here, which are completely alright today. There's nothing broken down here. And then we can have a look into the engine exhaust as well, which is likewise looking very good. Alright, so everything fine over here. Then let's move on to the leading edges. Over here, just checking for all the standard stuff, basically. Any sign of damages, any signs of bird strikes, any leakages, all the good stuff you may find. So the green nav lights are fitted and they're operative. The static quick dischargers are all here. Then we can move along the trailing edge of the wing and get down to that massive landing gear of the 777. So, brake wear indicator pins are okay. Condition of the tires is looking quite good. On the front side, again, brake wear indicator pins are good. The general landing gear assembly looks to be in a good shape. And with that, let's continue along to the aft side of the plane. Cargo door is good, and over here, no damages, no leakages. Trailing edge, or the leading edge and the trailing edge of the horizontal and the vertical stabilizers are looking good. The area where the APU is contained also not showing any sign of damages. So that's all looking good. Then let's go a little bit further to the front and have a look at the outflow valve right beneath the aft door. Nothing in there, very good. That was a little laggy. That's just MSFS when you're looking around. Okay, so over here everything's good. Then we get back to the landing gear, and over here the brake wear indicator pins are looking good. General condition of the tires is looking good. Looks like I haven't landed this plane too often just yet. Well, that's gonna change today, my friends. And over here everything is looking good as well. So, trailing edge, and especially that flaperon over here, making sure there's nothing in any of those edges. That's our fuel jettison valve over here, which is looking good. And then let's go ahead and go right back up front along the leading edge. All those little holes that you can see over here are for the discharge of the warm air from the wing anti-ice system, which you might as well need today. We'll see about that. So the engine's looking good. Let's have a look at the bottom as well, also looking good. And then we can get all the way to the front. Check all the fan blades. Check the general condition of the engine. Looking excellent. Well, and the landing light is good as well. Pack air inlet is as well. I tend to say our airplane is looking absolutely beautiful today. And with that, we are fit to fly. So let's go right back inside. And let's have a look at the status of our boarding, which is almost completed. Very good. So by now we should probably have gotten the load sheet. So let's go ahead and continue with our performance calculations. So we have a zero fuel weight of 179.3. Like this, and that gives us a gross weight of 241.3, which is looking absolutely splendid. Then let's head over into the performance tool. Gatwick 8 right. Let's cross-check the length of that runway, just to be on the safe side over here. So, here we go. So, 3,317 meters, and that's the full length via Juliet. And that's correct. Okay, import the weights, import the weather, calculate, and we get 53 degrees of assumed temperature. And that's an EPR of 1.374, looking good. Alright, so flaps 5 takeoff, CG is 29, and that gives 5.75 units of trim, which checks. Speed's 49, 53, 67. And, well, V1 differs by 2 knots. That means we have to use the speed from the UFT. If they are within 1, you can use them from the FNS, but today that's not the case for V1. That's fine. Alright, beautiful. And that's our setup basically complete. Then let's head over here, zoom all the way in for our taxi chart. And here we go. So that's everything done. Then let's see, the cargo doors are closed already, 2 left is still open. They should be done with the boarding, right? Oh yes, they are. Beautiful. Then let's say hello to our guests. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning from the flight deck. This is your captain speaking. My name is Emmanuel. In the name of British Airways, welcome aboard flight 2037 to Orlando. Today's flight time will be 8 hours 35 minutes. We expect a smooth ride in 36, later 38,000 feet. Now sit back, relax, enjoy the flight with us. If there is anything we can do for you to make it more enjoyable, please don't hesitate to ask any of our charming cabin crew, and we will get back to you with the latest weather updates when we start our approach to Orlando. Thank you very much for your attention, and once again, welcome on board. Okay, great. So they are basically ready. Then let's go ahead and prepare the position for pushback and departure. So, ground ops, close all doors and arm all doors. Once this is closed, of course. Here. No, why are you opening? Close. Here we go, that's looking better. And all doors armed. Alright, cool. So we are already running on the APU. We have no ground power connected. Then remove the shocks, please, and we are sitting on the park and brake. I like it. So, ground from flight deck. Yeah, go ahead. Please confirm all doors and hatches are closed, ground equipment is removed, and the bypass pin is installed. That's all confirmed, and we're ready to push. Thank you very much. Can we pressurize the hydraulics? Yes, clear to pressurize. So, 167, LNAV, VNAV, runway heading 07... 8, altitude 3000. So we're clear to pressurize. So, quick check. Fuel in center does not show. Very good. And then we can continue down here. Trim 5.75. Transponder on. Let me actually just set some nonsense number in here. So 5.75 is set. So we have a tire pressure indication, okay. Didn't see anything on the outside, but look at this. We indeed do have a flat tire. Okay, well, that's the reason we do these records. And let's just quickly go into the ground operations then and the ground maintenance. So, interesting. All those tires are looking to be in a rather bad shape. Well, replace. So that's looking a lot better, isn't it? Alright, wonderful. So everything is done down here. And with all that out of the way, I suppose we are going to get this aircraft ready. So, before start checklist. Flight deck door. Is closed and locked. MCP 167.078 3000. Takeoff speeds 149, 153, 167. CDU pre-flight complete. Trim 5.75 units, 0 and 0. Taxi takeoff briefing completed. Holding a beacon. So that's the moment where we would request our pushback. And once pushback clearance is given, beacon on, before start checklist complete. And then let's go. So ground flight deck. We're clear to push, and the park and brake is set. Roger. Release the brake, please. Brake released. Thanks. Starting the pushback and stand by for engine start. Roger. So here we go. Boeing 777 out of London Gatwick by iniBuilds. I really have to say, Gatwick is a very nice base for the 777 since you have a lot of lovely, lovely destinations. That's really one of those things that I do appreciate a lot. You basically do all the holiday operations here from Gatwick. While Heathrow, well, they do have a couple such destinations like the Maldives, but Heathrow is more of the business hub, while Gatwick is more of the holiday hub. So, wing walker, you gotta look if you're giving the clear signal. Looks like he doesn't care though, in the truest sense of the word. Alright, I tell you what. Are we smashing our wing? Oh, doesn't look like it. No, the wing is higher than the fence. Okay. Now imagine being on this road and just climbing up here, touching the wing for a moment. Are you eventually going to stop the pushback? Oh, GSX. Thank you. Stop. Alright, now we have a reason for a flat tire. So, starting engines. Rolls-Royce, so you can start them both at the same time. And then the pushback is complete, set brakes. And the brakes are set. So, engine start is progressing. Let's see what GSX is doing, if they are disconnecting anything. Look at that. First flight with GSX in 3 weeks. And straight away it pushes us into the grass. That's just unbelievable. This software. Really don't get. Why don't they just continue to here or something? I think it's because it can only do a 90-degree angle from the gate, but yeah. At least nobody will have to mow the lawn over here. Keeps things nice and cheap. And looking at that grass, yeah, they might need another lawnmower soon. Alright, so we've got 2 good engine starts, clear disconnect, show me the pin on the left, please have a good day, bye bye. Looks like we didn't miss GSX, huh? So, you... Alright, so there's a tuck, there's a tow bar. The ramp agent... Oh, she did not get run over. Alright, and the clear signal is seen, so let's do the flight controls. Full up. Full down. And neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Recall. Checked rudder. Full left. Full right. Neutral, and the B4 taxi checklist, please. Anti-ice. Auto. Recall. Checked. Flight controls checked. Ground equipment clear. B4 taxi checklist complete. Clear on the right side. Clear on the left side. So, lights on. Let's go. Park and brake released. Taxi, finally. So, very nice textures down here. In general, classical iniBuilds if you ask me. So, that 320 is behind the line. So we're going to take the long way across the apron today. Going all the way beneath the bridge. Which is pretty much what the real flight's done as well. It's one of those things I like about Gatwick. The entire airport is, well, very cramped. Pretty interesting to taxi. Because you really just gotta get used to that taxi layout. And it offers so much of a variety of the different operations. From 777 long-haul ops over to Emirates A380s, all the way to being a huge EasyJet base and sending those EasyJet and British Airways A320s all across Europe. It's just lovely. So many options of what you can do over here in Gatwick. So, we're still on an apron, we shouldn't go too fast here. Normally they say 15 knots. We're at 20 now. Yeah, maybe a little bit too quick. Let's cut back down to 15. Here we go. This is just so cool to see. You're just taxiing underneath the bridge. It's just incredible, isn't it? Lovely little construction site over here, by the way. For a moment I was like, where did they dig all that sand out? But here. Yeah, that's where the holes are. Alright, cool. So, let's go over to the left and on towards the main taxiway. Looks like the 320 is going all the way to there. So, quick check, the rest of the area is clear. I actually don't know why I'm even trying to overtake him. There's no use anyway. We gotta stay behind him. But man, just look at this apron. It's so cramped. There is just something everywhere. Alright, so number 2 behind the 320.
Approaching 2-6 right.
Nah, not really. That thing is closed for a long time. At least in practical operations. So it's surely easier to taxi when you're inside. Alright, so we've been outside for quite a bit. We might have missed the cabin ready signal, so let's just assume that it's been given. So weather radar on, train is not a factor near Gatwick. Before takeoff checklist, and before takeoff checklist complete. It's an amazing level of detail over here. I really like all those objects. iniBuilds. That's really... They know how to make an airport look good. As mentioned, don't worry about those double guidance systems over there. As soon as iniBuilds have released their own GSX profile for the airport, that problem is going to solve itself. I do start to like this look. Never been a great fan of these kind of visuals, but in the recent couple of weeks, and especially with the quality of the scenery becoming so good these days, alright, so let's review our takeoff briefing. It's going to be a left C takeoff, runway 08 right, flaps 5, noise abatement procedure 1, takeoff speeds 149, 153 and 167. So the A320 is turning away, I like that. Now our SID is going to take us straight out with a left-hand turn, initially 220 knots, and just to check down here on the approach page, 148 plus I think it's 70 in the 777, so 218 is the clean speed. That's good, because that means we can retract the flaps completely. But obviously we are going to have a look on the speed indicator to be absolutely sure if we can retract them all the way, or if we need to maintain flaps 1 for the initial turns. Well, apart from that, I have nothing special, nothing non-standard. Emergencies, straight at 25 nautical miles, climbing 3000, then radar vectors back for 8 right for an overweight landing. Runway is more than long enough, that's nothing to worry about. Okay, do you have any questions? No? Wonderful. Then that's our briefing completed.
Approaching 08 left.
Yep, clear to cross. If you're wondering, since we didn't use it for a while, VRAS is back in operations over here. The reason I didn't use it in the meantime was because I mainly focused on the A350 and A380, both of which have their own runway advisory and awareness system. Now, since we are flying Boeings and A320s and stuff like that again, we are going to use VRAS again. Highly recommendable. Alright, so let's see. The A320 is rolling. Then let's go ahead and line up runway 08 right. Approach area is clear.
Approaching 08 right.
Checked. Cabin crew, prepare for departure. So the A320 is airborne.
On runway
Then we are cleared for
08
takeoff.
right.
Takeoff. 1.05 EPR. Set takeoff thrust. Thrust set.
80 knots.
Checked.
V1. Rotate.
Lovely runway textures here. I like it. Runway has this absolutely used look. Gear up. $400. Alright then, bye bye Gatwick, and hello Florida. Look at that, exactly 2.5 miles behind the A320. He's turning to the right, we'll be turning to the left. So no problem here in terms of the separation. Okay, speed VNAV path and speed and event buck up. Well, 220 is the limit, so buck 220. So, vertical speed, alt, autopilot. Flaps 1, speed checked. Flaps 1. And we have to maintain flaps 1 for a bit, it seems. Clean speed is a little bit too high there. So we'll maintain flaps 1 through the turn through Kilo November 09. This must be such a strange feeling for the passengers to feel the engines run back this much shortly after takeoff at a comparably low altitude. So, bye-bye, Gatwick. And here we are, maintaining 3000. Don't need the chrono anymore, since the engines are out of takeoff thrust. Then we're waiting to complete the next turn, and then we can accelerate towards 250 knots. I really love this low-level flying here. This must be so much fun to fly manually in a multi-crew environment, where you have the other pilot doing the important things for you. Okay, so turn completed. Let's accelerate to 50. Can just go VNAV here, at least in theory. Why is this? Here we go. So flaps up. Speed checked. Flaps up. Very nice. So then, at this point, we'd probably get a further climb clearance. So let's go ahead, go up to, let's say, 15,000, and Alt Intervent to clear those restrictions, and off we go. So, thrust climb and VNAV, after takeoff checklist complete. And now we can close the speed window. Now it's going to maintain 250 knots, since we are 3,000 feet above the aerodrome. To be completely honest, we could have flown the initial level off a little bit smoother. I could just have gone for 1,000 feet a minute and then manually bucked 220 knots. In the real world, that's probably what I would have done. But, you know, flight simulation, still trying to fly a little bit manually in an acceleration, then engaging the autopilot. So much stuff happening at the same time that sometimes it's just nice if you can make yourself an easy life. And well, that's ultimately what the autopilot is used for, isn't it? So, one last look at Gatwick. Now write down your opinion of the airport in the comments, especially if you're familiar with the real one. I've unfortunately never had the pleasure to visit the real Gatwick, so I can only comment on it based on footage from the internet. But, well, here we are, right out of the airport and on the way to Florida. Set standard. And standard is cross-check passing flight level 63 now. Check. Alright, going through a couple of clouds. Temperature is at or below 10. Anti-ice is in auto. So if it's needed, it will start anti-icing automatically. Just look at that rate of climb here. That's one of those things that I just find so interesting about the 777-200ER. The 300 at 240 tons, it would give you 3,000 feet a minute or more. And the 200, yeah, 2,000 maybe. You just really notice that the engines were a lot weaker on the early 777 versions compared to the late ones. Then, let's get the sunshades closed, establish a normal cruising configuration. I'm gonna keep this one open because I know you guys like seeing outside and seeing what happens there. Look at that, 1,700 feet a minute. That's just cute, isn't it? What's the ISA deviation? -5 degrees here. Yeah, that's okay actually. It isn't that cold. Or rather, it isn't that warm. Well, so be it. Okay, approaching 10,000. Lights are going off, waiting a moment for the signs until the pitch has decreased a bit. Here we go, this is looking good. Alright, excellent. And with that, we are up and on the way. Now, let's go ahead and have a look down here. Recommended 320. Well, in the climb this isn't that reliable, so we'll take it all the way to 3.6. That's gonna be just fine. Well, and then I see you a little bit later during the approach to Orlando. So it looks like a couple of thunderstorms are moving into the area. We can occasionally hear them already. And overall, just have a look at this absolutely beautiful look outside. So the Kennedy Space Center is right over here, including the famous Space Shuttle runway and the launch pads for all those rockets. And I honestly gotta say, this is one of the most awesome views you will have as someone who's interested in aviation and in space flight in pretty much all over Europe and North America. Those arrivals into Orlando, they just take you over such completely awesome terrain. Really, really worth it. Disney World is fine, but the Kennedy Space Center is what's really the interesting thing here. So, one last look. There it landed, my friends. Alright then, we do have to prepare our aircraft for our landing into Orlando though, so let's go ahead and continue our descent to 7,000 feet here, as that's the next restriction, and then we can start to prepare for our approach as well. So, we are following the Alina 4 arrival, and to get you guys an idea of what we're doing, let's have a very quick look at that. So you can see we're down here already, and that one down here is the Space Shuttle landing facility with the Cape Canaveral installations. Really worth visiting, I can absolutely recommend that. Now, from Alina we are going to fly towards Banya, and then onto a heading of 246, down onto the final onto runway 18 right, down here in Orlando. Now, 18 right is up here. We are parking down here on the South Terminal Charlie, so we'll vacate the runway via Echo, then we'll cross 18 left and taxi in via Bravo, Bravo 11, either onto this side or Bravo 12 onto the south side. Either one of the two. So, passing 10, the lights are on, the signs are on, and we are nicely on track for our arrival. Love it. So let's go ahead and do the approach briefing here, please. And yeah, you can just put the sunglasses on, but get that shade off. And the same goes for those over here. Florida is just much too nice to look at when you're flying into there than to have the sunshades up. Not everyone agrees with me on that part, but I certainly think so. Alright, so let's start the briefing. We're arriving via the Alina 4 arrival. Ultimately, radar vectors onto the final approach for runway 18 right. ILS approach, minimum is 294. Go around straight at 500, right turn heading 270, intercept the radial 227 out of Orlando VOR, and then pick up the holding. Apart from that, extra fuel and time. Let's have a quick look down here. We arrive with 6.8 and the minimum is 5.4, so we have about 10 minutes extra. Now for the arrival itself, we will fly a Flaps 25 approach with flight director guidance on an ILS. Minimum is 294, idle reverse, vacate the runway to the left on Echo, and we have no specials. Nothing non-standard. Hotspots for taxi in, 1000 to go by the way. Hotspots for taxi in, honestly. Runway crossing if we need one, but they're good at these things in the US, so I'm not worried about that at all. Alright, and that's pretty much it. Do you have any questions? No? Beautiful. So that's our briefing completed. Then let's go ahead and run the approach checklist, please. So, altimeters. QNH 3002. Approach checklist complete. So approaching 7000 and approaching Banya, that's normally where they take you on a heading here, so let's make it heading 250 and descent altitude 5000. So level change, speed 210. And that's looking pretty good. Beautiful aircraft. I know. I'm saying that far too often. But it's true. And no worries, you're never going to hear me say that when flying a helicopter. Alright, back into the airplane. A little bit of weather here. Let's actually go ahead and avoid that. Left by 20. Heading 230. Because these things in Florida this time of the year, especially with thunderstorms forecast, it's going to get worse over the next couple of months. But you definitely don't want to fly into this if you can avoid it. One of the good things flying to Florida is that ATC is normally very aware of weather, because they have superb weather radars here, something that the Europeans could really adopt. But unfortunately, as long as there is no precipitation coming out of something, they often don't know about it, because weather radars, as you guys know by now, do not detect clouds, they detect precipitation. So down to 3000. For this reason, if you just have clouds like these, you often just have to ask for an avoidance heading. They might not give it to you on their own. Okay, so we're able to resume on navigation, or we're able to resume the vector they want. Let's just make a right hand turn here towards Hami. So, light winds. It's going to be an easy arrival. It's just, you know, flying through something like this in Florida this time of the year and all the way through summer into autumn. It's not a good idea. Now this flight, well, it's early May and I was like, okay, there's just a couple of thunderstorms forecast for long after our arrival, like 2 hours after. So it was okay, but when we get into summertime, July, August, September, if there's any kind of thunderstorms forecast for Florida, I'm gonna take an hour extra. I don't care. Because if the thunderstorm is not at your airport, then it's gonna be somewhere along your arrival. And you can be absolutely sure you will have delays and very long reroutings. I think my personal record is something like 300 miles extra, perhaps even 350, just because they give you a new routing that takes you completely around the weather, and then you're like, oh, okay. So you better have the fuel for that, because they aren't going to cut you short for this. If you don't have the fuel, you divert. Alright, flaps 1. So let's help a little bit here. Put out some speed brake. Then we can turn left, heading 210, descent 2,200. Cleared for the ILS, 18 right. And flap 5. Speed checked. So, vertical speed, just to catch that glide path here. We're at 190 ground, that means we need 1,000 feet a minute to parallel it. So something like 1,100 that we have right now perfectly captures it. Here we go, localizer, capture, glide stop, capture. So set go around altitude, 4,000. And there we go, field in sight. So, speed brake stowed, and as always in the US, well, not always, but as you have it many times, the runway is like 7 miles ahead. The DME is not located at the threshold, so you can't just take this DME, you always got to look at the nav display for your actual distance to the airport. So then, gear down, flaps 20. Yep, that was a bit quick. Here we go. And flaps 25. Speed checked, flaps 25. So, quick check, what's the wind on the ground? Orlando, 180 at 11. Okay, then we're gonna take a knot on top. Here we go, 142. That's looking wonderful. Landing checklist. Landing checklist complete. Cabin is sitting, the lights are on. Gear down, flaps down. Beautiful. Okay. Then let's go ahead and have a little bit of fun. Manual flight. I'm going to leave auto thrust on this one, because the weather in Florida can be really interesting at this time of the year and all the way through summer, because you have lovely temperatures, 31 degrees outside right now, but especially in the US, more than in other countries, you have more large asphalt surfaces that may be due to, you know, large industrial areas, huge parking lots, you name it. And all those surfaces, they just heat up a lot better than any of the grassland or the woodland around it. And therefore, you get some pretty strong turbulences. And obviously, if you have auto thrust on to help you controlling the speed, that makes things a little bit easier. Down here, that's
Approaching.
Look at that.
18
A huge area
right.
of concrete, which heats up a lot better than the fields around it. The same is going to happen over here, and that's where you would find the turbulence. It gets even worse when you have a lake in front which is not going to heat up as good. Therefore, the temperature difference will be even greater, especially on the very short final here. So that absolutely does promise some turbulence. And especially looking at where these factories are over here, our right wing would be lifted, our left wing would drop, so that's what would make things interesting on a landing like this.
50 above.
Checked.
Decide.
Continue.
100. 50. 30. 20. 10.
So we have speed brake, sub thrust wheels normal. So we can let it roll a little. That's echo coming up over there. Manual brakes. And here we go. So for Orlando itself, we are using the Taxi the Gate scenery for FS 2020. Just copy and pasted the community folder from the backups I did back in the 2020 days. And except for a couple of trees that are getting rather close at times, it works really, really well. Okay, here we are. So, let's see. Clear. Nope, there's someone taking off. Okay. But he's airborne. That's fine, then we can cross. See, that's why we're checking this. Alright, but the guy is
Approaching.
gone
3,
and
6, right.
not falling down again. Perfect. And let's cross the runway. So straight ahead, Foxtrot Charlie. That's kind of what... Actually, we can turn right on Bravo as well. Kind of get both taxiways every now and then. Couldn't really make out an actual system there just yet. Alrighty, then let's do the after landings. Well, might be getting a little too fast here. Here we go, 29 knots is better. So we don't have an after landing checklist here. I will delay the APU start a little bit to conserve some fuel. Nice, so next to the left, and then our stand, what's the number again? I keep forgetting it. Will be 245 Juliet. Let's see if GSX has that one. No. Well, I don't care. Let's see what we can find. 245. Then we'll just take that one. No follow me needed. Handling by... I don't know. Give me something. Give me Donata. And, well, we are not going to go onto the dashed line. Starting APU, lights off. So here we go, 245 center line. So the marshal is in place. No, we're not going to turn further to the right. And stop. Perfect. So, park and brake is set. APU is pretty much there. That's what I call good timing. So, APU running. Cutting through, all doors in park. And here we go, shutting down. So let's go ahead and initiate the deboarding. So the engines are stopped by now, beacon off. Okay, shutdown checklist. Park and brake, set. Shutdown checklist complete. So that's how I like it. Then let's go ahead and get ourselves some ground services here. So chocks in place. Jetway should be done by GSX, and that looks good. So, ground power request, and I think last time I've been to Orlando I actually saw British Airways use an air conditioning unit, so I don't mind. Packs off, let's connect the air conditioning. Here we go. Certainly Orlando is one of those places where it would make sense to use one. Then, disarm all doors. They've opened both 1 and 2 left. Interesting. Okay, so oil quantities are looking good. The hydraulics are looking good. The APU oil is also still good. Those messages are all good as well. Just a quick recall. Everything perfect. Alright, so with that, my friends, welcome to Orlando. I sure hope you enjoyed this one. Leave your feedback in the comments underneath the video. Let me know which other destination you'd like me to approach next. And with that, I'm really looking forward to see you all again on the next one. In the meantime, as always, like, comment and subscribe, and let me know what you think about Gatwick. Let me know what you think about our approach to Orlando and the Orlando scenery itself. As mentioned, Taxi the Gate, ported from FS 2020, or respectively just copy-pasted the community folder. And, well, as always, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.